Recognize now Congresswoman Malliotakis.
Thank you very much. And just to respond to my chairman's comments, look, there's no doubt that there are very good people who are trying to enter this country to achieve the American dream, and there's a broken system. But there's also people who are being exploited. They're being taken advantage of. We went to the border. We saw a young girl crying because she had been gang raped along the journey. That is the stuff that we cannot be turning a blind eye on, and unfortunately, this administration with their open border policy has incentivized that type of illegal activity that is leading to horrific things happening to people along the journey, as well as the amount, as I said, illegal activity taking place, entering our country with drugs and what's so on. But to turn to the question I wanted to ask was for Mr. Farnsworth. I'm curious what your opinion is of the fact that Mexico, El Salvador, Honduras, Guatemala, they've all boycotted the Summit of Americas. So not only were Republicans not invited, but these countries that we are giving billions of dollars to try to work with us to resolve this issue, decided that they didn't even want to come to meet with our president. What does that say to you and people who are saying that this is a good idea to give them billions more?
I think it's an important question, and it was a disappointment that those four leaders chose not to come to the Summit of the Americas. They were invited. In fact, as I understand it, the Biden administration bent over backward to try to encourage each one to come to Los Angeles for the meetings. Each one is a sovereign leader. They made decisions based on different reasons and different rationales. I was particularly disappointed that the president of Honduras didn't come. In part because the Vice President of the United States went to her inauguration, which is something you don't see a lot in terms of Latin America. A U.S. Vice President going to a presidential inauguration in the region, it just doesn't happen that often. It was a signal of real interest in Honduras. It was not reciprocated, and that was a real disappointment, and we still don't really know why. El Salvador, Guatemala had their own reasons. The president of Mexico expressed his support for having Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua, three brutal dictatorships, at the summit, which was contrary to the Inter-American Democratic Charter, which all the countries of the hemisphere have signed, except for Cuba, indicating, indeed, that the summits of the Americas are reserved only for democratically elected leaders. So this was also a bit of a disappointment, and one that, I think it just shows that we have a lot of work to do to continue to build that relationship over time.
And you mentioned Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua as the reason why some of those countries decided to boycott. I will say that, we saw what happened in Colombia now, a leftist government there for the first time. Venezuela and Cuba are continuing to spread their influence of communism throughout the entire region of Central America and South America. Very concerning. It's a very concerning thing. So the next question is, corporations, private companies, when they see this spread of communism taking place in Central and South America, is that going to deter them from wanting to invest? You want stability, right? You want to make sure you have a fair judicial system. You want to make sure they're not packing the court like Venezuela did, right? Where they went from 20 to 32 justices in 45,000 cases, all of a sudden went in Maduro, and then, Chavez in the Maduro's favor, and they destroyed the richest country in South America and all its economic opportunity. How does that play into the thought process of trying to attract private investment into that area?
I can tell you it's a disincentive, in a very real way. Look, there are a lot of reasons why companies will invest in individual companies, in individual countries, based on their own dynamics, based on global markets, based on whatever the metrics they're using. But the overriding political environment is also key. And to the extent that that is unstable, or to the extent that it may be stable, but it's going in a direction where the private sector is getting squeezed, or state presence in the economy is increasing in a significant manner. Companies very much take that into account in terms of whether they invest, not just new investment, but whether they continue to invest in the country. And so what we've seen across Latin America is a real lag compared to global economies, right? Latin America should be doing so much better comparatively on a global basis, and in many ways it just has lagged. Obviously, the comparison is Asia, the comparison is Western Europe, et cetera, but we're not dealing anymore with local geographic areas in terms of investment. We're dealing in a global economy, and one of the things that countries in the region still have not fully internalized necessarily is that they're competing for marginal dollars of investment in a very competitive global environment. And so if you have a government that comes in and the first thing is to talk about expropriations or to talk about, changing the tax code in a very arbitrary manner or rewriting constitutions in a way that might be arbitrary and disadvantageous to companies who made billions of dollars of investment, on an expectation that that would be sustainable over time, that's going to have real-world implications. And indeed, that's what we've seen in the region over time.
Thank you.